And thank you guys again for participating, Shepard, and joining today are Leon Tornecki, Tim Hall, India Brown, and Philip Wingstern, and also Kelly Fitzgerald will be joining us from Sova Health. So I just want to thank you guys again for continuing to support this briefing and everybody in the community. As I've said many times, this is such an important thing to do so that we can keep everybody abreast on what's happening and what needs to be done and what's being done and just all the ins and outs of COVID-19. So we'll go ahead and get started. And Leon, would you like to kick us off with giving us an update with the city?
Sure, I'd be glad to. Thank you, Sharon. Just a couple of quick updates, and I think I had mentioned this at our city council meeting last week, but the small business grant program that we finished up the first round of that. It actually finished up at the end of July. I believe we had somewhere around 137 to 140 applications. Initially, we set a target of 250,000 that we were going to allocate to that program. The grants are $5,000 grants. I think at the end of it, we had just a flurry of applications that came in the last week or two of the month, and I think last count is we ended up somewhere around $420,000 that we ended up handing out in small business grants. We were advised that there's a second pot of money coming that we've already received, another 1.1 million. So we're now looking at ideas and options of how to use that. And I think we're going to extend the small business grant program probably at least another month. We'll likely roll that out toward the end of August and run it through. I think our target date was like Friday, October the 2nd. So we'll run it about another month and then kind of work that through. We're looking at a variety of other options of again, how to use that money and what to use it for. Here in the building, just kind of as to how we operate, we've seen some situations with a couple of employees actually catching COVID-19. So due to a variety of reasons, so we're having to keep up with that. And certainly as people get that or exposed to somebody, they're quarantined, which unfortunately is impacting a bit how we operate. We've had a couple of employees in some of our offices that are kind of a small staff to begin with. And when multiple employees are at it, creates some issues regarding how we operate. Would point out, and I think I've talked about this previously, that we currently are not issuing any special event permits, and these would be things like, Oktoberfest, things like that. I understand they had some questions the other day about the Uptown Trick or Treat event the Chamber helps sponsor, and I think the decision has been made to cancel that. I think at one of our last sessions, Charles asked, and I see from the picture here that he got up and walked away from his desk, but he had asked about the Christmas parade. Again, that would require a special event permit. We would guess, and I'm speculating that event probably will not be held. And there's a couple of reasons for that. I think as most people are aware, in the Christmas parade, the biggest participation probably comes from the high schools and the bands and the cheerleaders and all of that. And with schools basically not being in session, none of that participation would occur. So that's going to probably take care of a lot of who would participate in the parade. Charles, I see you returned. So we were talking about the Christmas parade here and just some discussion on that. And with schools not in session, no band participation, cheerleaders, that type of thing, that's going to eliminate quite a bit of participation in that event. So I think maybe the direction the wind is blowing on that is to just simply not have it, recognizing the variety of issues that we're all facing in regard to the pandemic. So beyond that, again, we did get the second pot of money. We're looking at options on what to do with that. We do intend to extend another small business grant program. And we're certainly looking at other options. I know Tim will probably mention this. I see Phil is on here. We just county and the city just agreed to participate with the United Way on a child care project that should provide some assistance. And Phil may talk about that as he gets on. But that's in a nutshell. That's where we are.
Thank you so much, Leon, for giving us that update. And Tim, do you want to give us an update from the county?
Yeah, sure. Thanks, Sharon. Thanks everybody for being on and for allowing us to be on here as well. Kind of piggybacking some of the things that Leon said. We also have a small business grant program. We started ours a little bit later than the city started theirs. So the first round we'll stop taking applications first round on August the 31st. As Leon said, a second tranche of money has come down from the federal government. So I would expect that we would probably reinstitute a grant program of some sort. We'll probably make some tweaks to it, just some things that we've learned the first time around. But again, we'll take applications through August 31st. We too set aside initially $250,000. Our committee meets roughly every 10 days to go over the applicants. And through our last committee meeting, we had approved 97 grants, and they totaled $189,700. So that's a pretty good amount, but still not quite what we had set aside. So I expect a pretty good flurry of applications here through the end of the month. And as Leon said, with the second chunk of money, we will probably look at that grant program again and just make some slight variations to it to try to maybe hit a little different market, and also to just make improvements on our end, because we really didn't know what we were doing when we set it up. So we'll do that as well. We also have set aside, I think I mentioned this a couple times, we've set aside money to social services for county residents to tap into to help pay their delinquent utility bills. We're the PSA, which I also help manage. We are not under the direction of the State Corporation Commission. However, our PSA Board of Directors decided early on that we would follow the directives of the SCC with regards to disconnections. And the SCC had extended their deadline a couple times, but the deadline as it sits now for the resumption of disconnections is August 31st. That could change pending some extra action by the SCC prior to that. But if that stays in place, we will resume disconnections at that point. And we would highly encourage anyone in the county who has a delinquent utility bill, that's a PSA bill, AEP bill, Southwest Virginia gas bill, highly encourage people to get in touch with social services because there is a chunk of money there designed to pay those bills. And we would ask people to call social services. They're not allowing significant foot traffic in their office yet. But the numbers, if you guys could help us get these out, they can call social services at 656-4300 or at 656-4336. And come the 31st, if it looks like the SCC is staying with that deadline, we will begin that process on September the 1st. We're not in this to cut people off. We don't want to do that. But at the same time, PSA is probably in arrears about $120,000 on unpaid utility bills. And at some point that comes into play with our bond covenants when we borrow money. We have to hit certain benchmarks through revenue, and we don't want to get to the point where that endangers the bond covenant. So our goal is not to have people without water and sewer. Our goal is to get them some assistance to help pay their bills. So that's why we've set up that amount of social services, and we can replenish that money just like we may do with the small grant program as we get into it. And if the money gets used up pretty quickly, we can replenish that. But the main thing is to not have anybody feel like they're trapped. If you don't have the money to pay your bill, this is intentionally available to you to help you pay your bills. So please take advantage of those. But we will do some social media push and public relations push on that prior to the 31st. Now, there is one thing that could impact all of this. And as you guys know, there's a special session of the General Assembly ongoing right now. And there's a piece of legislation that's been introduced that would handle or direct utilities to handle disconnections in a certain way through a legislative process. It's a very involved process that I'm not completely comfortable with yet. I do know there's a component of it where the utility, be it us, be it AEP, be it Southwest Virginia Gas, be it any utility provider, we would have to verify the income level of the person whose name is on the bill and gauge their repayment based on that income level. That's problematic in a lot of ways. One, we don't have the staff to do that, to track down income levels and chase that data down. And two, it's very cumbersome to be at the window and somebody's asking you to verify your income. So we're hopeful that that legislation gets tweaked a little bit and makes it more business friendly on our end of the stick. But the main thing is there's money available to pay your utility bills. It's just a matter of contacting social services when we get to that point and taking advantage of that. And that's the main thing I want to get out today. Don't feel like you're a lost cause or that you can never pay this back. There's a mechanism set up to help you do that. And we're hopeful that folks will take advantage of it. And then third, I know the national numbers for COVID seem to be declining a bit. Locally, that's not the case. Number of cases, number of deaths continues to rise. And I know there's an element of COVID fatigue in this community. Everybody's tired of, it's like the Bill Murray movie Groundhog Day, when you wake up and every day's the same. Wearing the mask, washing your hands, staying away, not socializing. That's an element that I'm fully aware of, and I suffer from it myself. But the key thing we have to understand is we are not at the finish line yet. We don't even see where the finish line is. So it's imperative that people understand the three simple things that they have to do to help mitigate this issue. Wash your hands, socially distance, and wear your mask. Three simple little things. Even a 60-year-old guy like me can remember three things. It's like a store list. If it gets past three, I'm in trouble, but I can do three. But, wear your mask, wash your hands, socially distance. It's really just that simple. And to see those numbers go up and see the number of deaths go up is just heartbreaking. And I'm hopeful that we can understand that and kind of re-energize, reinvigorate this community and understand that this is what we have to do if we want our lives back. As simple as that. That's the end of my preaching.
Thank you so much, Tim, for that update. And I'm going to go over to Kelly Fitzgerald, and she is with Sova Health. So, Kelly, what would you like to update us with this week?
Good afternoon, everyone. Today, our update that I'd like to share with you is our bi-weekly COVID physician-led video series that we've been doing here to let the community know exactly how many patients we are treating inside a hospital for both campuses. Yesterday, we posted this video online. It's on our Facebook page, as well as on our hospital COVID preparedness page. I put the link in the chat room for you media folks if you would like to include that in your story. That's the direct link to view the video, as well as view a CDC handout that they recently released that shows the percentage of likelihood of becoming hospitalized if you have an underlying condition. And what we're seeing is these underlying conditions increases your risk of being hospitalized if you were to contract COVID-19. This update is provided by Dr. Fasahat. He is a hospitalist at our campus in Martinsville. Currently, we are seeing 35 patients in our hospital. Between Danville and Martinsville, that's about 20 patients in Martinsville and 15 in Danville. Our visitation policy does remain the same. We have a very limited visitation policy. There are exceptions to the visitation policy. Just go to that link, that website, our preparedness page, and it does have, it lays out exactly what those exceptions are. And also, I'd encourage you to check out that handout from the CDC that shows the risk of the hospitalizations based off of underlying conditions. And finally, I would like to reiterate two things. Of course, what Tim just shared, those basic three are essential. And also, don't delay care. It is safe to go to the hospital. It is safe to go to your physician clinics. If you do have those underlying conditions, it's even more important to make sure you're following up with your primary care provider, your cardiologist. Keep those appointments and keep those regular checkups. Thank you.
Thank you, Kelly, for that update. And interesting to get the numbers of how many are hospitalized at this time. All right, so I'm going to move over to India, and she's going to give us an update from Harvest.
Okay, so really what I wanted to do is just remind everybody about our Pay It Forward MHC small business forgivable loans, which is powered by the Harvest Foundation and Virginia 30-Day Fund. There are funds still available if you have not applied. I spoke with a small business owner this weekend, and she said that she had not applied because she thought all the money was gone. We still have funding available. just as a reminder, the Harvest Foundation gifted $1 million in honor of local healthcare workers and first responders to the Virginia 30-Day Fund to be used to fund small businesses within Martinsville-Henry County. Small businesses employing 3 to 30 individuals that are based in Martinsville and Henry County and have been operating for at least 1 year, that are recognized as for-profit businesses and are able to provide a valid business license, as well as are owned and operated by Virginia residents, can apply for forgivable loan awards up to $3,000. And when we say forgivable loans, I think the loan part is what tends to scare some small business owners away, but they really are forgivable. They are not required to be paid back unless you would like to do so in the future. So I'm here today just to remind you all that we do have those funds available. We really want you to apply. The application is really, really simple. It doesn't take long. I will say that there are 2 things that that I get the most questions about. That's the video. So you do have to upload a video with your application. I promise the video does not need to be a really good production. It just really needs to be taken on your cell phone. You just have to tell us about your business, how you could use the funding, show off your business a little bit, but it does not have to be professionally made. And then also employer eligibility. So as far as the 3 to 30 employees, that can count full-time and part-time employees. So please check out our website, theharvestfoundation.org. If you go to how to apply, and you should see Pay It Forward MHC. If you click on that, it will take you directly to the application. Check out our Harvest Foundation Facebook page, and you can check out some cool videos of some of the small businesses who have been funded in the area. As I said, please spread the word. We really want to make sure that all businesses are able to take advantage of these funds, and we appreciate the Chamber, the local EDC, as well as Small Business Development Center for helping us to get in touch with these small businesses and spread the word. Thank you.
Thank you, India. And I have seen a few of the commercials from some of the small business owners that have received a Pay It Forward grant, and those are really good. It's nice to see who all's been helped.
Thank you.
And Philip, I know you're going to talk to us about childcare, because I guess through the United Way.
Absolutely. Thanks, Cheryl. Appreciate you providing us with the opportunity to update the community on where we are with respect to childcare. So, going back over the summer, we had worked with, Harvest Foundation, Boys and Girls Club, YMCA, Department of Social Services, a wide range of different partners to try and develop alternate plans to respond to whatever the school systems ended up arriving at. And, obviously currently the school systems are operating virtually, which, we knew that was going to put, an additional stress on some parents in terms of trying to figure out care for their children while they're going to work, assistance with, the academic subjects, things of that nature. So working with these partners, we put together a subsidy program that's available to families with children ages 4 and up. And it's a very simple application, 1-page application that needs to be completed and submitted to the United Way. It can be located online at childcaremhc.org, which is a wonderful website with lots of resources, including, listing of local childcare centers, identification of which childcare centers still have slots and space available for children, other resources that can benefit school-age children, as well as this subsidy application. We went live with this application, I'd say early last week, and we already have, I think, over 75 parents that have submitted applications for this. We anticipate as more people become aware of this program, we'll see, a corresponding increase in applications. It's, like I said, very simple, 1-page. The subsidy is set at approximately $50 per child per week, which we estimate to be approximately half the cost of what childcare would be at the market rate, which, we think is incredibly important because, childcare is, an expensive proposition. And if you weren't planning on needing to pay for childcare for one child and, having to fork over an additional $400 a month, much less if you had 3 children that needed childcare, and then you're looking at $1,200 a month, that can be, a serious strain on your household budget. So we wanted to make sure that, parents were aware of this option so they can take advantage of it so their children can be in a healthy, safe place where they're able to learn and they're able to access these publicly funded resources that we're currently offering. If you have any questions about this program, first check out childcaremhc.org. Second, you can email dee@dee.sbmh@gmail.com. She's going to be reviewing all the applications that are received for approval. If you have any questions, you can also reach her at 276-252-0538. So once again, childcaremhc.org. That's where you're going to find most of the information related to these programs. One other quick thing that I wanted to highlight, I'm sure that for a lot of families, the last thing they're thinking about is purchasing a home. But we did recently roll out a new program that we think is very beneficial for the community, particularly as low as interest rates are currently. So it's called an individual development account program. And individuals that are at certain income levels are eligible to receive financial literacy training and then grant-funded matched savings accounts that can be used for a down payment of a home. These savings accounts match an individual's savings at a rate of $8 for every $1 saved, up to a maximum of $4,000. So if someone saves $500, they're going to receive $4,000 from this grant to go towards the down payment of a home, which is obviously a tremendous opportunity for any family in the community. For this program, there are income guidelines, and it's kind of based on household size. So as a kind of a summary, if you're a household size of 2, then you need to be making approximately $37,000 a year or less, which is pretty honestly close to what our median household income is in Martinsville and Henry County. So we think that there'd be lots of individuals that be eligible to take advantage of this process. So if anyone is interested in that program, please reach out to Lisa Frick at lisa@unitedwayofhcm.org. And then the final note, not COVID related or anything, but I would just like to remind everyone to please complete the U.S. Census. That's incredibly important for our community. Lots of federal and state dollars are predicated on the response rates of census in the community. And this is really your only chance to do that for 10 years. So please, at the very least, do your part for the community and complete the U.S. Census. So thank you.
Thank you, Philip. That was a lot of great information for the community. And Lisa, I think you were going to speak about filling out the applications that India and Tim and Leon have spoken about.
Thanks, Sharon. Yes, I just wanted to give everyone a reminder if they need help with sorting out which grants they might be eligible for, or actually completing the applications, that the chamber staff, including the lovely Sharon here, are available to help you with that hands-on. And it's just our pleasure to be that support in the community here in Martinsville, Henry County. So please don't hesitate to reach out to us at 276-632-6401. And we are so happy to help you wade through that, because it can be confusing.
Okay, thank you, Lisa. And I wanted to add too, if for some reason you prefer to email us, if you go to our website, which is martinsville.com, you can get mine, Lisa, and Kimberly's email addresses, if that's how you prefer to contact us. But I just want to thank everybody. You guys have had such great, every week we have great information, but this week it just seems like we've, again, just so much more that we can do to help the community. And I want to open up now for the media to ask questions. And thank you guys again for continuing to support this briefing, because you guys are how we're getting the word out there. And we truly appreciate you being a part of it. So let's see. Ron, do you have anything?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, I have two. And first is with Tim. On this utilities funding with social services, is the deadline the same for them as with the county?
We're still working through a lot of that, Ron. We just want to get the news out that there's going to be money available. And we're kind of waiting to see if the SCC alters that deadline, because if it pushes the deadline back, then clearly the deadline for disconnections will be pushed back. But the way I hope it will work, and in conversation with Amy Rice, who's the Director of Social Services, anyone who has a past due account would contact Social Services, would send them a copy of their most recent bill, which shows all the money that's owed in arrears. Social services will verify the account, verify the amount, and then the check will go directly from social services to the particular utility. So when I say we'll start doing that September 1st, we're not going to start cutting off September 1st. That's when the process starts of us getting back into the routine of disconnections. So, if we go from August 31st to September 1st, there will not be, 700 people who have no water and sewer service the next day. We'll roll it out as we would on a normal month. So it will not be a hard deadline, but I think the key thing is to allow people to know or make them aware that there's a pretty nice option if they want to take advantage of it. And we're trying to make it as simple as possible to do that.
All right, thanks. And my other question is for Kelly. Looking at the COVID-19 numbers in Henry County, when you compare them to Pennsylvania County, which is about twice the size of Henry County, why is there so much more activity in Henry County than it is in Pennsylvania County? Or do you guys have any idea why?
We do not. The health department, they track that data. We know what's going on inside of the hospital, but in terms of the community spread, the health department's the best source for that question. Sorry, I don't have more information.
All right, thanks a lot. Well, that's all I have. Thank you so much
Okay.
for letting us do this.
Thank you so much, Ron. And Nancy was not able to join us today, so we didn't have the perspective from the health department. So hopefully she'll be back with us next week. Okay, Luis, do you have any questions for anyone?
Hello, everyone. My first question is for Phil. Could you again give us that information on where they need to contact the child care?
Sure. So the first place that I would check is the childcaremhc.org website. Just type that in your browser and you can find, lists, like I said, of childcare providers, ones that have vacant slots, as well as a link specifically to the application. In terms of contacting an individual, the person that's reviewing applications for that project is Dee, and you can reach her at sbmh@gmail.com.
I know that one of the biggest concerns, with students not being in school is that exposure. So how are these child care facilities ensuring the safety of students when they're there?
So they have guidelines that are provided by DSS, who's providing oversight of child care centers. And one of the biggest things that you're seeing is smaller pods of students. So there's a much, much smaller number of teacher to student ratio that you're seeing, in the current COVID environment than you would have seen, a year ago this time. So that's the primary measure that they're doing. I can't speak personally to each individual child care center. I know a lot of them are doing drop-off only, no parents are allowed inside the facility, temperature checks, questionnaires, surveys, but I think that's going to vary from site to site.
And you can correct me if I'm wrong. This is with the Harvest Foundation, a partnership with them? Is that?
That's correct. Harvest Foundation, seeded this program in March of last year. And initially when we were operating that was when it was focused solely on healthcare workers, first responders, things of that nature. Now with, schools being, completely remote and us having a little bit more time to plan and evaluate, we have decided not to put those restrictions in place for this funding. We don't even have a requirement that you must be working in order to access this subsidy. We have some guidelines in place, and our contractor is using those guidelines that the group mutually agreed to in terms of to evaluate applications for subsidy approval.
Next question for Leon. So is it confirmed that there will be no Christmas parade, or is that still in the air, up in the air?
Well, still in the air. We, as we announced earlier, we have suspended issuing special event permits, at least for the foreseeable future. That certainly would require one. I guess it was our hoping that there would kind of be a consensus among everybody, realizing that schools aren't going to be, most likely would not be participating, no bands, no cheerleaders, none of that participation, which I think comprises a big segment of the parade. And without any of that in the parade, my guess is it would really hurt the appearance and the attendance and all those factors related to the parade. So we haven't gotten to that point. We actually haven't received a request yet for a permit for that. If we did get that, I think we'd have to have some discussion. Certainly if there's a way that could be done and done safely, we would try to look at that. But I think at the probably at the end of the day, knowing at least what we're hearing right now about, schools not being in session, no bands, no participation from that sector, it really wouldn't be much of a parade without all those people participating in it. So I guess we're hoping that there's just a consensus among the group that maybe this year is not the year to try to do that.
Thank you. And my last question is going to be for Kelly.
Yes, she had to log off at 3:30. Sorry, Louise.
Oh, that's fine. That's fine. Thank you, though. Thank you, everyone.
Okay. Charles, do you have questions?
Yes, I guess my first question to Leon would be, I know the Martinsville Speedway is still waiting for some guidance from the governor on the fall race and the Valley Star 300. And we don't know what the picture looks like in October. I know there has to be a time that we have to figure the parade thing out. But don't you think we should wait a little bit to what the governor says on how many people we can have in a crowd, that kind of thing?
Yeah, absolutely. Right now that's what we're doing. We're waiting to see if conditions improve to the point that it looks like it can happen. Then certainly we would look at that. And again, as I've pointed out, everything that we know right now indicates that schools would not be participating. Maybe that changes. I don't know, but just knowing from past parade events, the bands and the cheerleaders and all that's a big part of the parade. And without any of that in it, what kind of event would it be? But absolutely, we haven't received a request yet for that permit. So until we do so, we certainly can't deny anything or can't issue one because we haven't received an application yet. But
I got you.
We're open to that, Charles.
Well, we're creative.
Oh, yeah. I would expect nothing less.
Okay. All right. We just, it's just sad to think that you're going to have to not have a Christmas parade. I mean, it's hard to fathom. I know that's what we've had to do all year long, but gee.
Yeah,
Anyway.
there's an awful lot of planning that goes into it. I know there's a tremendous amount of work that goes into it. And, again, recognizing that participation might be limited. I guess the question would it be worth it to try to put everything together, realizing you may not have high school bands and that element of participation in the parade?
Well, doing we saw a 4th of July parade this year. I saw it on Fox News, but they actually had the parade participants in a parking lot and everybody drove by them. I thought that was kind of unique.
Oh, well, that's a thought.
I mean, we've had the drive-in open here in Hollywood and it's been very successful.
That's a thought.
It's been very, very safe too. So
yeah,
that might be an alternative, but let's not say no yet. Okay.
Okay.
All right. Thank you.
Charles, do you have any other questions?
Yeah. Let me talk to Tim real quick about those cutoffs.
Okay.
I know that's very sensitive and so forth. I mean, because obviously cutting somebody's water off, you're cutting their lifeline off. So I mean, I know a lot goes through y'all's heads before y'all go through this, right?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, we want to talk to the customers. We're willing to work out whatever we have to work out with them. But if we could just emphasize, there's free money available for them to tap into with just a couple of phone calls and an application. We don't want to be, we don't want to put anybody in harm's way. That's not why we're here. But as this disconnection money piles up, there's an equally large pile that you can tap into to help to mitigate that. And that's what we want to do. Nobody's sitting over here with a wrench in their hand waiting for the deadline to go away. That's not what we do. We want to make people aware that there's a solution if they will take advantage of it. And we highly encourage them to do that. Social services has stepped up, willing to manage the project for us, and they're eager to do it. They always have an emergency fund available anyway. So this is kind of just an emergency fund on steroids, if you would. But the options are available, and clearly if the legislation gets passed, there's an extra option available. And we'll talk to anybody with a special circumstance. So, we're not trying to be evil. We're just trying to make people aware that there's an option out there, and we highly encourage them to check into it.
One last question for Leon and Tim. One of the things we're seeing with a lot of the advertisers like Ameristaff and companies like that they cannot get hardly any jobs filled right now. and we're seeing the unemployment's 10%. I saw Eastman putting out small signs. They're even advertising in Carolina. It's just like, this is so strange with the unemployment at 10%. Well, it doesn't seem like anybody is going to sign up for work. And we keep hearing about this government money that everybody's getting. I mean, I heard somebody yelling it across the Walmart parking lot the other day. I'm not going to work until that's up.
Well, I did see from Governor Northam this morning. I think the Commonwealth is going to pursue the extra $300 a week that the federal government's offering for the second thing. But I did not see an indication that the Commonwealth would kick in with the extra 100 as the federal government is asking them to do. So I guess I don't know what's going to be the ultimate outcome there. But clearly, even under best of circumstances, if you've gone from $600 a week extra to $300, maybe $400. That's going to make an impact on folks who have needed the money. So, and I'm with you. I know I've talked personally with several business owners and CEOs. I know Eastman is hiring gangbusters. I know Prescott, not hiring, they have openings. Press Glass has numerous openings, and they're eager to move forward. So there are job opportunities out there should folks want to take advantage of those. Absolutely.
And what I understand, they're paying more. Those companies you just talked about are paying more, which is even making it harder because it's pulling people away from their old job. So I mean, it doesn't make any sense. I mean, it's like, why is the unemployment 10%?
I can't answer that question. I don't know, but I do know. My friend Mark Heath uses a phrase that rising tides lift all boats. And as one company decides to pay more per hour to get the worker in demand, the talented worker, the skill set worker, that raising of pay rate and the benefits raises everybody else's game, because if you're not competitive, you're not going to get anybody. So maybe that's an unintended good consequence of this, is that corporations are seeing that they have to step up a little bit to compete for the talent that they want to get. And clearly that's what we want, because we want more residual income in the community, which they can go to the store and buy more things. They can eat out more often. They can have some quality of life things that they may not have had before. So hopefully that'll be an unintended consequence of this whole process as we get through.
Leon?
I agree completely with Tim. We've actually run into that situation back, I think in early July. We had a situation where one of the guards at the jail annex tested positive for coronavirus, so we had to shut that facility down. And we used a tremendous amount of labor from the jail annex to help on our garbage trucks, our mowing crews, a variety of other operations. So we had about a 2-week period where everything was shut down. So we attempted to get part-time help through AmeriStaff and some of the the local temp agencies. And we quickly found out 2 things. Number one, there just really wasn't a great pool of people there willing to do part-time work. And then the second issue was that the rate of pay that we were offering was not even in the ballpark. So we had to scramble and kind of bump that up quite a bit just to get our foot in the door, to get people to even look at us. Fortunately we got through that process, and we're kind of back to semi-normal now. But I think, with the unemployment money that was being paid, that was one of the things that we heard, is that people could stay home and make as much, if not more, than they were making, particularly for some of the 9, 10, 11, 12-hour dollar an hour jobs. So I think that had a big impact on perhaps why unemployment is the number that it is. I suspect over a period of time it's going to be, kind of a slow process, but I think at some point it'll get back down to what we would hope to be a reasonable number.
Thank you so much.
Sure.
Thanks, Charles. Bill, do you have questions?
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Thank you.
Sure. Tim, when you speak of the social services being the recipient of a pot of money from you for people to be able to use to pay their utility bills that are in arrears, this is for just residential, right?
That's correct.
Is there a solution for any businesses that are behind in their PSA bill or their light bill or whatever?
Well, for small businesses, we reference them to our grant program. The grant program is available whatever funding you ultimately receive. If it's COVID related, then that grant funding is eligible for you, for that small business owner, to use that money for any COVID-related experiences. So the small businesses, and we consider small up to 30 employees locally. I know the federal government kind of thinks it's under 250 employees, which is clearly not something that we can apply here. But our grant program for small businesses, if you have up to 30 employees, you're eligible for that grant program. And once you receive that grant funding, you're expected to spend it on COVID-related items, which certainly could be utilities. It certainly could be spoiled food if you were a restaurant owner and you had to throw away food. All sorts of options that are available to you as a small business owner. So that's kind of where we're directing small business to go if it needs assistance, is to go through that grant program.
Leon, I've heard you speak about this too, and from what I've understood you to say, utilities, you don't consider utilities as a qualifier for how a recipient of this money for a city business could spend it. Is that the case, or am I misunderstanding?
No, that's not the case. And in the grant program that we have, and again, we were targeting businesses that were affected by the shutdown that occurred in March, April, May. We got a number of applications from businesses that were shut down due to the governor's order. It could have been, we saw a lot of hair salons, for example, that fell into that mandatory shutdown. A lot of those businesses, as we learned, had space that they were leasing, and with that lease space, they still had to pay utilities. So they had a monthly lease, and they had, even though it was a smaller amount of utilities, they still had to pay those utilities to keep that space intact. And as we reviewed our grant applications, we considered that to be an eligible expense. So we, in cases where they clearly documented that, we did fund that.
Okay, and Tim, you mentioned something about a legislative procedure that you're hoping gets tweaked. Is this something that may come out of the special session? Is that what this is, or?
Yeah, it is, Bill. It got filed, I think, on Tuesday. I'd gotten some word about it from some folks who work in Richmond on behalf of, it's called VACO, Virginia Association of Counties. And I know VML, which services cities and towns, was tracking the same thing. There's a legislative attempt to enforce a payment option, which would be an extended payment plan on utilities. And part of that plan was that we would have to verify the income level. And again, this legislation is still active. It's not been passed. It's not been manipulated. It's not been massaged at all. This is just the original filing that I've seen. But there was a component to verify income levels. And there was also a requirement that you had to have a 24-month repayment plan option for each individual account. And sometimes that's onerous because 24 months, if you stretch it out that long, one of the issues is somebody could move out of the county and close their account, or just move away without doing anything with their account. We can't track that money after they move. So stretching a repayment option out 24 months could be an issue with us collecting on that money. And one thing about utilities is that we provide the service and then ask you to pay for it. So once you've consumed the service, once you consume your water and sewer service, you pay for it after you've consumed it. That's just how this process works. So there's no getting back of that product once you send it out. And a repayment option that stretches to 24 months is a long time for a utility to space out payment plans. And then, the whole thing of someone could just up and move. They could move to the city and we have no recourse to get that money back that we've for the product that we've expended. And I know Leon would see the same thing. He may have customers who leave their city address, not because they're running away from their bills, but they're just moving. And they move to the county. I know that would limit his ability to recoup whatever that cost was. So I'm all for being wide open and flexible with repayment, because I said earlier, nobody wants to cut off anybody. That's not what we're here to do. But something like measuring income levels and stretching out payments for 24 months, those would cause a lot of problems, not just for this utility, the VSA, but I think for a lot of other utilities as well.
Okay, and one last question. This is directed to SOVA Health. I think you mentioned there were 35, is that true? Did I get that number right? 35 hospitalizations in Martinsville in Pittsylvania County as of today.
I think she hopped off, Bill.
Kelly gone? Okay. All right, I'm done then. Thank you.
Our folks